In January 1998, a couple was abandoned in shark-infested waters after a dive operated by a tourism company in Australia. Subsequent investigations revealed that the couple's abandonment may not have been an accident, but something much more sinister. This video is a chronological reconstruction of the events based on the inquiry's investigations and media reports. Stay until the end to find out what may have happened to the Lonergans. You'll be surprised. My name is Vincent Alcantara. If you like this content, please leave your like and subscribe to the channel. It means the world to us. Consider sharing this content on your social media to help raise awareness about the fragile balance between humans and wild nature. It's January 25, 1998, and Thomas Lonergan, 34, and his wife Eileen, 28, leave their backpacker hostel in Cairns on a BTS bus company bus for a short trip to Port Douglas. They have a reservation today on a 12-meter charter boat with space for 26 passengers called Outer Edge. The couple paid $160 for the trip, which includes 3 dives on the Ribbon Reefs, a series of wide shoals off the Great Barrier Reef, 40 miles offshore. The Lonergans are from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They met in college and have been married for 10 years. They recently completed a volunteer mission with the Peace Corps in the South Pacific on Tuvalu Island. As part of a 3-month trip before returning to the U.S., the couple decided to dive the Great Barrier Reef. Cassidy has such a great fascination for deep-sea diving that her husband learned to love it too. Thomas and Eileen are eager to use their diving skills, and upon arriving at the first stop, they quickly plunge into the water with all their equipment properly placed in advance. The couple and other tourists on the Outer Edge head to the second stop, and everything goes as planned, diving in crystal clear waters and observing the immense coral wall, ensuring guaranteed fun. The tourists are quite satisfied with the experience provided by the company. After completing the first 2 dives, around 3 p.m., the third dive begins at a place called Fish City. At this point, the Lonergans tell the diving instructor assisting the tourists, Catherine Traverso, that they will leave the group and do their own thing. There are a total of 26 passengers on the boat, and only 1 headcount was made at the beginning of the trip. All tourists once again plunge into the water for the 3rd time, with a single thought in mind: to make the most of the pleasant experience of seeing aquatic animals floating in the water like birds and starfish sleeping in the sand, surrounded by a deep blue that seemed infinite. Thomas and Cassidy Lonergan are seen swimming calmly at a depth of 12 meters. This would be the last time the couple was seen by anyone. After 45 minutes of diving, the tourists emerge from the water, return to the boat, and prepare to return to land. Here, 2 versions emerge about what happened. The first is from the boat owner and tour operator, Jeffrey Ian, who claims he checked and counted 26 people before heading back to shore, without waiting for the couple to return from the dive. The second version comes from Mr. Richard Trigg, a tourist on the trip who participated in the dive with his wife. He says he doesn't remember seeing anyone checking if all the people were on board before departing, and recalls being extremely critical of the company's safety procedures, as he did not feel he and his wife were safe during the trip and the dive that day. Either way, there is no doubt that the Outer Edge miscalculated the number of divers on board before departing and returned to St. Crispin Reef, leaving the couple alone in the sea where great white and bull sharks are known to inhabit. Upon docking in Port Douglas, the crew begins to disembark toward the bus that would take them back to the starting point. Some people notice items left on one of the seats. Not knowing whose they were, they simply pushed them aside and continued with their tasks. It was a plastic bag containing the Lonergans' dry clothes, Thomas's glasses, and an empty bag. Another thing no one noticed was that 2 diving tanks and 2 weight belts were missing from the boat's equipment kit, which the couple was wearing during the dive. Shortly afterward, around 5:30 p.m., the BTS bus arrives to take the divers back to their accommodations. The driver, Norman Steigen, notices the absence of Thomas and his wife Cassidy, so he gets off the bus and goes to the BTS office to report to the owner, Mrs. Corinne and Sharon Gibble, that the Lonergans were not waiting for him when he arrived at the dock. He continues, saying he looked for the Americans at the ice cream shop, cafes, hotel, and other areas but did not find them. The driver also notes that 2 pairs of shoes belonging to the Lonergans were left in the dock's dive shop and had not yet been collected. Mrs. Sharon Gibble reports to the driver that she called the tour operators, but doesn't remember much of the conversation, only that the boat owner, Mr. Ian, said they could leave without them. The next day, January 26th, one of the Outer Edge diving instructors returned to the same dive site with different tourists for a new trip and found the 2 weight belts the couple was using abandoned. You might be wondering what these weights are and why the couple would abandon a piece of diving equipment at a time when they theoretically needed all the equipment possible to stay alive. These belts function to prevent the diver from rising to the surface. They balance the weight of the diver and the diving gear, making underwater mobility easy and smooth. It's possible the couple abandoned the belts as soon as they realized the boat had left them behind, trying to stay afloat more easily. More than 48 hours passed after the couple's disappearance without anyone noticing their absence until the afternoon of Tuesday, January 27th, when the boat crew returning from the same dive activity the couple had done 2 days earlier finally noticed the couple's belongings and showed them to the unaware boat captain, Mr. Ian. As soon as he looked, he immediately recognized the shirt in the bag as belonging to Thomas on the day he dove, then said, "Jesus Christ, these belongings are from the Lonergan couple who dove with me last Sunday." He calls the Gone Walkabout hostel where the couple was staying and asks if they had returned. The staff's negative response prompts Ian to immediately contact authorities, and the search for the couple begins on January 28th, almost 60 hours after they were abandoned on the coral reef. In total, 17 aircraft, including police planes and helicopters, Navy boats, and civilian divers, formed the rescue group. Despite trying for many days, no trace of the Lonergans was found. On February 5, 1998, one of the buoyancy control vests the couple used was found near India Heads, about 105 kilometers north of Port Douglas. The oxygen tank was not connected. Sometime later, Cassidy Lonergan's green and gray wetsuit was found on a beach near Indian Heads. It had tears in the buttock area, supposedly caused by a shark or corals. Later, a slate was found on a beach, and it was apparently confirmed to be the Lonergans by the writings on it. No clue indicating what really happened to the couple was found, and a series of legal proceedings and sensationalist theories began. The boat's captain, who operated the dive, was charged with manslaughter, but his lawyers and the captain himself sighed with relief when, after some investigations, diaries of the couple were found with passages talking about suicide. In Thomas's diary, there was a passage written by him that said, "Like a student who has finished the exam, I feel my life is complete and I am ready to die. From here, my life can only get worse. It reached its peak, and now it's all downhill to my funeral." Lonergan, apparently depressed, also wrote about how his mother was upset with him for turning his back on the Catholic faith and running away with Cassidy. On January 9, 1998, just 2 weeks before the diving trip, Mrs. Lonergan also wrote an alarming passage in her diary. It said, "Tom hopes for a quick and painful death, and he hopes it happens soon. Tom is not suicidal, but he has a death wish that could lead him to what he desires, and I could get caught in it." She also wrote about how their relationship had entered a new and unhealthy phase. "Our lives are so intertwined that now we are hardly 2 individuals. I am still Eileen, but I am mainly Eileen and Tom. He is mainly Tom and Eileen. Where we are now goes beyond dependence, beyond love. The mystery deepened even more when 6 months after the disappearance, the Lonergan's wrist slate used for exchanging messages with diverse underwater was found. On the first page, there were inconsequential scribbles about diving technical issues that were positively identified as Thomas's handwriting. On the other side, there was another message that said, 8 hours on January 26th. Someone please help. We were abandoned by Outer Edge on the reef. Please help us before we die. In the months following the incident, more than 20 sightings of the Lonergans were reported, including the presence of a supposed couple very similar to them on an unidentified fishing boat observing the dive site from afar on the afternoon of the disappearance, and reports that they were also seen flipping through magazines in a bookstore in Port Douglas, north of Queensland. These supposed sightings fueled theories that the couple faked their own deaths. In November 1999, Jeffrey Nairn was tried for manslaughter and acquitted. It is believed the jury felt he should not be held responsible for a mistake.